from the city of Portland, otherwise known as PDX. I actually visited there about, 12 years ago? 11 years ago? How many years? I stopped counting after a while on this 30. No, God, I'm dating myself. Let me stop it. The 25th anniversary tour. And I don't know where Matt is because this was supposed to be a surprise for him, but Matt and Richie are the ones that brought me out there on the tour. And then, of course, there's Scotty Soul, who's my man doing some remixes for me and holding down Hawaii as well as a number of other places. And we're joined by a few other, I want to call y'all OGs, but I don't know how old you are, and I don't want to date you. But we're joined by the knowledgeable folks that know the Portland scene, the house music scene in Portland, and we are going to get this started right away. We're going to start off by having everyone introduce themselves, and we're going to start with Scotty Soul. Unmute yourself, Scotty. You there? Unmute yourself, Scotty.
Yeah.
Scotty. I just heard him.
All right, we're going to go over to Sosa, DJ Sosa. We'll pick him up.
How are you guys doing? I just, started DJing when I was in 2011 and hasn't stopped. Well, so of course, last year kind of stopped, but still doing projects here and there. And just been living and learning the music, House music is what got me into it. So,
Tell us a little bit about what you do. What's your history? How'd you get into it?
I love music, and I just watched my favorite DJs out there, and just started learning the craft, and little by little, just started playing, shows here and there, and eventually just started, putting on our shows and collaborating with other guys in Portland and gals too, and just kind of, we had several nights, weekly nights going for many years. So that's kind of how I started it and kind of been doing that, So.
All right. Next up, we have Dave Bate.
Hi, I'm Dave Bate, DJ from Portland, and kind of got into dance music in the mid 80s, going to the nightclubs, little spatterings of house music kind of showing up in Portland around that time. Went to college, got access to being on a FM radio station for a year, and started, doing a house show there late at night. And then that led to, eventually starting to come to parties. And around that time was 88. So there's Summer Love that was going on in England that was starting to filter in over here. So we're having a lot of acid house parties, and kind of started from there, started DJing at that point. And when the rave scene kind of came back in the 90s, started, DJing even more around that time frame. Started a record store selling primarily Chicago, Detroit, domestic music, and then some of the better of the imports and New York stuff. And around mid 90s, joined cohorts with Tom Mitchell, who's on here, to form Renegade Rhythms. And we've been going strong since then, selling records, throwing parties, and DJing.
All righty. That was a good one. Everybody follow suit. Do exactly what he just did. Next up, we have Mina.
Hey. Let me see. I got into house music because I'm a raver, first and foremost. But I started DJing when I was about 16. And that was in 1998. I moved to Portland in 2000. And one of my very first gigs that I played in Portland was at the Ohm. And it's one of my favorite stories to tell because I was too young to actually go to the club. They had like a security guy that escorted me to the stage, and I had to stay on the stage, and he had to escort me to the bathroom. But anyways, that was my beginnings in Portland. And since then, I put out a ton of music. I've actually put out a lot of music with some folks in LA with Wally and Mikey B. And I put out some releases with DeMarcus Lewis. I'm a vocalist. I'm a studio vocalist. So that's what I do in the studio. And DJing is just, it's in my blood.
Right in your blood.
That's all I
In
got.
your own words. Next up, we have Tom Mitchell.
Howdy. I'm Tom Mitchell. Got started into this similar as my brother-in-law and co-founder of Renegade Rhythms. I just love the music in the early 80s. Hitting the early nightclub scene. Got inspired to become a DJ literally on my first experience in a nightclub. Was mesmerized. And yeah, it just kind of went from there. Graduated high school around 86. Moved to Seattle, and then I got involved in local club scene up there, record pool. Was kind of moving around a little bit, and then when house music kind of started trickling into Seattle, well, for my experience anyway, it was right around the rave scene time period. I was like a club DJ, and so I'd say probably like around 90, 91 is when that all kind of occurred. Became a resident DJ at the Underground Nightclub in 1992. Held his residency there till 95. Donald Glod also was a DJ at that place. Many might know him.
Yeah, I think people know him.
Yeah, and started a record store in Seattle, 93, 94. Rode that out for a moment. And then after the club closed, the Underground, pretty much just decided to relocate to Portland. Was involved in a lot of the early warehouse parties in Seattle in the very early 90s, 91, 92, 93 time period, 94. So yeah, that's pretty much my story. Coming back down to Portland, starting Renegade Rhythms, and here we are 28 years later or something like that. So
all right, let's see if we can get Scotty back. You good to go, Scotty?
Yeah,
Okay, we can hear you
it's
now.
not letting me. Oh, there we go. Hey, listen,
Oh,
There
I
you
heard
go.
him.
I was having trouble there.
Yeah.
So I'll do it quickly. I grew up in Portland. My first party I went to was 1990. I went to Boogie Buffet with Preston and them threw a stompy party up here. I moved to Hawaii. I moved to Japan for a year and then Hawaii after that for almost 15. I started DJing in 92 and threw a lot of parties and such. Went on a few tours and I ended up coming back to kind of be with family and making music, a lot of music.
A lot of music.
I gotta
A lot
keep
of
it short
music
and
is
sweet.
good. And the seventh member in the group here is my co-host Danny, and take it away.
What's up, everybody? I am Danny Kay, currently on terrestrial radio in Los Angeles, 101.5 FM. Just received syndication, so playing nationwide. I've been co-hosting shows going on 6 years now. I'm really enjoying this one with Jesse Saunders. I've also co-hosted Vinyl Monkeys, which is for DJs. It's all for DJs. And I co-host the Oracle Edition B-Side show every fourth Monday. It's an all elements platform. It's an honor to be here with you guys. Thank you.
All right, let's get started. So, who in this room is the OG of the bunch? Who is the first person to play house music, go to a house music party, or start a scene in this room?
Raise your hand.
Probably playing house music is me and Tom.
All right,
Around
who
the
wants
same
to
time.
go first?
So, like I said, we had in the early, like before 88, like 86, 87, the club scene's mediocre in Portland, had some good DJs here and there. They had to stick to a format, but they'd sneak some house music in here and there, and that's kind of how I got exposed. And then we had a community radio station. We still have a community radio station called KBOO, and they used to have music that's not on the mainstream music, and so that's probably where I really got educated. The record store that I eventually started working at, which was called the Ooze, kind of a weird name, but it was an import record store. Every week he had a show on, and he would play a whole bunch of music that came in that week, and that's what really exposed me to it. And then once I actually saw a pair of 1200s, once I got to the radio station, that's kind of sealed the deal. It was just a matter of getting the time to play on it. So that was around 88 is when I actually first got, before that, doing tape edits and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. And Tom? Unmute yourself. Gotta be sure to hit that.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I forgot the question now after all that.
We're looking for the OGs, the OGs in the room, and how you got into the scene. And
yeah, like for me, it was I always had a love for music, and when the 80s was going on, I had my first nightclub experience. It just kind of turned me out really on a whole nother level. The music that was being played, sound system, lights, all that shit, but it was really like what the DJ was doing. I was mesmerized, just trying to figure out really what was going on in the booth. I probably stood there more than I was out dancing on the floor watching the DJ. But literally from that moment, I got hooked, and I started seriously, hitting Tower Records, any record store I could find in Portland area.
Oh my God. Tower Records.
Yeah, trying to find 12 inches. Wherever they would sell them. There were only a few shops here in Portland at the time where you could really get some stuff like that. But then I was still in high school. I graduated in 1986. And then after that, I relocated back to Seattle. And then it went even crazier up there. And then that was a goal of mine, was become a club DJ. And I fulfilled that actually quite fast. But it was all like, it was like the top 40 R&B hip hop thing. And then like all this music was coming out, like, the early spatterings of house music, groups like Technotronic and all that kind of stuff, and then like the techno rave thing was hitting, and even crazier sounds. And, I was into it, and I was just searching for the music, and it eventually led me to, a place where I had an opportunity to become a DJ in the underground warehouse party scene in Seattle, which later then turned into me becoming a promoter and throwing events, and then actually bringing DJs and whatnot in to curate the parties.
So that was in Seattle?
Yeah, I was in Seattle. I started there. That was
what year?
91.
91.
Throwing parties. I started DJing in 1989, and then I was actually doing warehouse parties by about 91, 92.
And you got to Portland when now?
95. Went back down to Portland, 95.
At 95, what was the scene like in Portland?
95, the scene was good. I think it was, there was a lot going on, all kinds of parties going on. But that's at the point, like when we created Renegade Rhythms, that's where we kind of put a different focus on, rather than just throwing a big party. We started focusing more on the sound, and specifically Chicago and Detroit. And so we started bringing out a lot of DJs that reflected that sound. And
so what made you go to the Chicago, Detroit type of sound?
The music, acid house, Chicago house, Detroit techno. Okay. Some of the sounds that weren't being really played out here on the West Coast. I mean, there were some of those. There were some DJs out here that were playing that kind of stuff, but there are a lot of DJs playing break beats and some drum and bass DJs and trance, and some of the progressive stuff is big. But we wanted to kind of focus.
So before Tom Mitchell got into the scene in 95, was the rest of the people already partying in Portland? And if they were, what was the scene like before Tom Mitchell arrived? Can the crowd elaborate and let us know what Portland was like prior to Tom Mitchell?
Well, Tom Mitchell lived in Seattle, but he was still DJing down here. So I would go out to the club and go watch him DJ. I knew his brother. I didn't actually know Tom. I was pretty good friends with his brother Mike, and I'd go listen to him. The party scene was, I mean, Seattle was bigger. It's a bigger city. Portland had a pretty good scene from 91 to 95. I mean, large numbers, in the thousands at times. Like Tom said, it was, on bigger events. And that's kind of like why by 95, we were trying to get an event that would tell more of a story rather than just, the amount of people that you can get there, how high they can get, rather have people come in for the music itself specifically. So
Who were some of the other notable DJs during that time that were making their tracks on the scene?
So during that time frame, we were just talking about there in Portland, Brad Vockel, Eric Hedford,
Mike Stevens.
Yeah, Mike Stevens, Cam Bowden DJ'd one of the nightclubs very consistently throughout that time period. So he didn't make it to the warehouse party scene as much, but he held down a consistent, Friday, Saturday night, which was nice to have around. Tom, I think who was your funk influence? Jeff Brady.
Oh yeah, Jeff Brady. Yeah, he predates all this. He was a Billboard reporter, Club Billboard reporter, and he's actually one of my mentors. When I met him.
What year was he doing?
This was 1990, 91.
Okay.
Just
and
before I started doing warehouse parties.
And for me, my mentor would probably be Charles Pound, who ran the Ooze record store. He was throwing the Sin acid house parties from like 86 to 88. So one of the really first people to, head down, what house, and it was primarily just house and acid house. Either coming from Chicago because that's where the music was being made at that time, or as it was starting to get filtered in through the UK, Jack Track stuff and that kind of stuff that was basically regurgitating what was from Detroit and Chicago to the UK. We get them in import orders, that type of stuff.
So
what I would really like
was
to
like
know
the first time, like the very, 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 very first time that you heard something. Maybe you didn't know it was house. Maybe you didn't know it was techno yet. But when did you first hear something in Portland area that was just different?
For me, it was probably 1986, and I didn't know what it was at the time then. I know what it is now. It was Adonis No Way Back.
Okay.
And that definitely, because, the scene was, just kind of your standard club thing. I was going to this other club called the City Nightclub. It had main dance floor, had more of a gothic side, and the gothic side actually had picked up that track and used to play it because it had 303 sounds in that nobody really even knew what they were. The vocals were all trippy, that type of stuff. So
What about the rest of you? Mina, DJ Sosa, when did you first discover house music? Can we hear the story?
Mina? You there?
Somebody, my mic muted. There we go.
Go ahead.
Mina's trying to remember when she first discovered house music. Sosa, do you remember?
I'm fairly new to the scene, so I want to say it was back in like 2009, 2000. Yeah, it was back in like 2009 because I started DJing in 2011. So I just, fell in love with it. Went to
when you first heard it though, like what did it make you feel? Why did you fall in love with it?
It was the bass frequencies and the sounds and the layers, and the experience. It was an underground party. Never been to one before. So it was the music, the experience, just everything about it for me is what changed it, changed me. So then decided to pursue that.
What about you, Mina? You with sound now? Mina? Are you frozen?
Yeah, sorry, my mic
Yeah,
was
you-
muted there. The first time I heard house music, or the first time I fell in love with it, I actually distinctly remember it was in Seattle at NAF Studios, where they had all their big raves. And it was a big, I don't know, they had a flash or something in the main room, but they had this little like side alley, like bubbles, and it was actually Yano and Wesley Holmes from Seattle who were playing music. I didn't know what it was, but I knew from that moment forward that I wanted to find out who those people were and what that music was. And I actually am really honored to call Wesley a friend now, because I pursued him to be like, what is this? And he actually is a great mentor up there in Seattle and was happy to show me the way. So it was the USC 2-year anniversary party that they had, which is the United State of Consciousness, which I don't even know if they're around anymore, but they were the guys throwing big raves probably right after Tom moved away up there in Seattle. And been with it ever since.
Awesome. We still need to hear from Scotty Stoll. When did you first discover house music, Scotty?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting older, like a couple of these guys here. I mean, definitely kind of the late '80s. We used to go to Scoochies and Confettis and the City, even in some of these places. They used to have underage nights where we could go down there and dance when we were in like even junior high school and such. So, probably 86, 87, somewhere in there, where I was really starting to get into music. I was starting to listen to a lot of like a Shep Pettibone kind of remix stuff from NXS or from some of the bands that I was into. And then going to that first party where I got to actually hear DJs playing only house music, and right away I knew I wanted to get involved and be into it. But yeah, I mean, my folks were always playing music in the house, no matter what, whether they were cleaning or cooking or whatever it was. So there was times where I got to hear stuff that now I would kind of consider house, some of the Donna Summer stuff or anything else. But I would say 80, 86, 88 to 87, somewhere in there is when I first started hearing house.
Nice. So in the chat, Icebreak says that Jeff Frady still runs a record shop there in Portland. So I wonder if any of y'all ever caught records from that shop. I don't know the name of it yet.
It's Platinum Records, and yeah, he still works there. Jeff was a Billboard reporter back in the day. He was one of the he was playing house music when it was kind of exploding in the warehouse parties at the time. He might have been playing it a little bit before that. I didn't know him at that time, but he was kind of always more of a funk, R&B kind of like DJ too, and then kind of started playing that as it was hitting, like when the mainstream was kind of catching on to it a little bit more. But he was being served as some of that stuff directly through the Billboard channels and whatnot, special mixes and things of that nature. But he's still around.
I'm muted. So what does it mean to you guys? What has house done to impact you? I know that Mina literally chased down people to figure out who they were. House music, symbolizes something great. Once she heard it, she had to take it and make it a part of herself. Can each of you guys share a little bit more about what house music means to you and how it's impacted your life today?
It is my life. It's become my life. That's all I do, pretty much.
I mean, who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Tell us about your
Who I am, it's
whole.
who I hang out with. It's
Yeah,
what I
tell
do
us about.
pretty
We know
much
you're
my life.
like prolific, like musician and songwriter and everything, Mina. Tell us about how you got or you apply all of that into your sound
Well,
and your
all
writing.
my
You got a bad connection.
well, actually, writing is something I'm not super good at, but I don't know. I just kind of fell into it. We had the Northwest House Music Conference here in 2013, and they were trying to do like a Miami Winter Conference thing in the Pacific Northwest. It went on for 4 years, and I met I just met people and developed relationships and started doing projects. And that's how I met DeMarcus Lewis. It's how I got to meet Mikey V and Chuck Daniels, and all these people came to Portland, and it's my hometown, and it was a house music conference, and I took a lot of the workshops with a lot of like Real-Time and Pesner, and I just got to meet people and developed relationships, and before you know it, we were all doing collabs, and that's just kind of how it started for me. So every single release that I have out there is a collaboration with someone else. I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. It sounds like you,
Sure.
the house family and the closeness that house music brings to our community, you tapped right into it. And the fact that every project that you've done is a collaboration speaks to your fondness of the tight-knit family that house music creates. So thank you so much for sharing, Mina. Anybody else have a story?
Well, just like Tom, it's what I do. I currently DJing as much as I can online. Started an online platform for DJs, so the DJs can get paid. The artists who the DJs are spinning can get paid, which is sorely missed in a lot of the different streaming platforms that are out there. So we thought we'd make sure everything gets done right. I met my wife through house music, my brother-in-law, my other brother-in-law. It's house music's everything I do.
It's become a family affair for sure.
That's beautiful. What about the newbie, DJ Sosa? I even feel like an OG, y'all, because I've been in house music since like 1992. So I'm like, yeah, I'm an OG right now. What's up, Camp OG in the house?
Yeah.
So Sosa, how has house music impacted you since you've recently discovered it?
Definitely. I mean, a lot of it was, bringing people together. I mean, that was like one of the best things that you could ever do. And our house music scene here in Portland, even in the later years, was a little bit smaller. So it was just kind of nice to have that family, even with the DJs would come together, would come to support, each other's shows. And it was just the most beautiful thing is just getting people together, I think. And we did that. We did that every week, every club night, underground night, just house parties, with some of the DJs and producers, we'd get together and, make those beats, and, we'd always be like, hey, have you heard this new track? And, try to, either play that or, replicate some of those sounds. So it brought us together. That's the number one thing. I met a lot of cool people, through this music experience.
Well, on behalf of house music, welcome to the family, and we're so glad you're here. All right. Does anyone else have a story to share about what house music means to them? If not, I have a couple more questions.
Scotty, you're quiet today, man. You're not this quiet. What's going on with you?
He's nursing a hangover, he said.
Is he frozen?
Typical house music.
Yeah, he's frozen.
Typical house music vibe. So guys, some of my favorite things about Portland are the public transportation in downtown, the arts district, the really clean water, and just how friendly and diverse everybody is there. Regarding the house music scene, or just the scene in general, I didn't get a lot of experience with the club and the warehouse parties. What are some of the other styles of electronic music that are part of the scene in Portland?
Detroit techno is big. Techno in general, various different forms of it.
Techno.
Yeah, electro's big right now. And actually, Portland's got a real blossoming modular synth scene right now too. That's making some noise. There's some good stuff coming out of the Portland area. There's a lot of stuff actually going on here, more than you might think. You just got to turn the stones.
I feel like we got some banging drum and bass too, but that's just me.
I love drum and bass. That's awesome. How can people who aren't tapped into Portland, what are some of the ways that they can hear some of this music that you guys are pumping out? Are there, maybe the website that you created for the DJs? Where's something for the end user?
Yeah, Dave can go ahead and elaborate on the website a little bit if he wants.
So it's called techno-club.net, and it's basically the first online virtual nightclub. We have anywhere from 5, 6 to 10 rooms happening every Friday and Saturday night with some of the top DJs, electro, techno, house. We pretty much stick to those genres. So anywhere from Cisco, the Advent, Carrie Lykebush, Ben Sims. On the techno side, we've had electro, DJ Exact, house. We have Tony Humphreys as resident every Friday night. Jovan every Thursday we have. So we're slowly starting to bring in some of the OGs in the house electro techno scene. Stacey Hot Wax Hale from Detroit, been holding down the house music for since before I was into house music. And she's been making it, getting records out for all us DJs. So yeah,
Stacey Hot Wax Hale. We had her on last week, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, we did. Shout out to Stacey.
Yeah, no, she's the real deal. She's a nice lady too. So she's a pleasure to work with. I can say that.
So guys, what are some of the most memorable events, and what are some of the names of the clubs and warehouse parties that you guys can remember?
That we can remember.
That you can remember. How much do you remember? How many drugs did you do? Can you remember anything? No.
I think for me, the 1201 for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot to remember.
I think
yeah. So I mean,
Go ahead, Scotty. Go ahead, Scotty.
1201 is definitely one of them. It was a small club and maybe held 50, 60 people.
What's that?
Sorry, I don't know if someone else talking or not, but the 1201 is one that I will always hold for.
Yeah. 1201 was
The 1201,
cool
I don't know if you guys
spot.
remember that one, but that was basically a nightclub that had no windows at all. And at 2 o'clock, you could leave, but you could not come back in. There was a one-way door that would let you out, but if you stayed in all night, you could. And I remember, I met all of the big names that I admired, Lisa Shaw and McGill Miggs and all those guys in a club that maybe fit 50, 60 people max. And those were golden years for me. I don't know about everybody else.
Yeah, the 1201 was a nice little
I
club.
miss it so much.
1201 was a sweet little spot. We had Mike Huckabee there a couple times and a few other people, but Doc Martin played there too. That was a wild one because so many people there for that, and you could only get literally 50 people in the place. It was pretty wild. So it's good vibes.
Like 50 people.
That sounds really exclusive. Are there any warehouse parties or, undocumented, unpermitted raves or anything like that stand out?
We did a series of stuff. 7th Market back in the late 90s. That was pretty big. What's that?
It's 7th Market. We brought Katie Larkin.
What was that one that they just did, the 20-year anniversary? One Love? Was that the big 20-year party they did? The big rave that they did it 4 years ago. It was the 20-year anniversary. Was it called One Love? Right?
Yeah, Doc Martin played that party.
No? Anybody?
Yeah.
Yep.
There was a series of parties that when we were introducing people to the Portland area, we had a space called 7th Market, and when we were doing some stuff with another group called Ben Events, some other brothers of ours, and we were bringing that's when we were bringing out some of the early Chicago guys, some of the Soul Foundation crew, people like Mike Huckabee, Stickman. Gosh, John Tejada, I can't even remember everybody. John Williams from San Francisco made many appearances. Mark Farina, Derek Carter,
Keep a Man.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. There's another nightclub here in town too, the Zoot Suite. That Mark Medina, who is another OG here, did some old warehouse parties and whatnot between Portland and Seattle back in the day. And he helped bring a lot of Chicago people early on to Portland. People like Johnny Fiasco, Ron Trent. He was instrumental in bringing Diz and Derek Carter out here. I was the one that got Mark Farina out here to the Portland, Seattle area originally, like 1992, I think. So yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of, too many to really even to name. And I wasn't even at all of them. I mean, Minaj threw some great parties. Yeah, it's just lots of stuff going on back then. It was pretty wild.
Speaking of Minaj, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
All right, good. So Mina was talking about Ohm. So the first place I played when I come back from Hawaii was actually Minaj brought me. That was when Brad Backel, Dorian, Rico, or I think his name was. All those guys had IMAX Records, and they were doing stuff at Ohm. And that place, that was a great spot to play as well. Great stage, good sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ohm was a good spot early on.
Minaj,
Definitely.
yeah, Minaj was a great influence into the scene for quite a while. He was going to join us too, and he had to end up working. But I was hoping to have him on talk a little too about some of the early days. He did some warehouse stuff too, and yeah.
Yeah, Minaj and his crew were pretty instrumental in the development.
What I always remember about Minaj's parties, what I always thought was a trip when I first moved to Portland at Minaj's parties, and maybe this is just like a hippie thing, but do like an opening Ohm, like you're doing a yoga class where everybody who was helping put together the event before the event would start would get into a circle and they do 3 ohms and they bless the space. And I always felt like it was so much more than a club night. It was like a ritual or something. And, it was way more than a club night. And that was what Minaj always and still does bring to the table, I think. With or without shoes.
All right. And she's gone.
Exit.
Everybody's disappearing like magic.
I like that though. She said her piece and then she and then
She's
she
like, I'm
just
out.
gone like a monk.
I'm out.
Guys, what's the scene like today? Let's talk pre-COVID. What was the scene like, December of last year or right before the NAMM and everybody got the NAMM Rona? What was it like?
It was good. Portland's making noise. I mean, there's a lot more warehouse parties that were starting to pop up by various different promoters. Well-established club nights of all different types. There's a lot going on. I mean, it's hard for to support.
Yeah,
everybody.
I feel like it was.
There's definitely
I
a lot of.
feel like it was just starting to take off.
Yeah. 2020 probably
like
would
it
have
was
been a
starting to
really
take off,
good
for
year
sure.
for Portland, honestly. But we'll never know how that would have played out now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys, what I noticed when I
Yeah.
was in Portland the couple
It
times
seemed
that I
like
was
it was
there there was a huge population of young kids that didn't seem to go home ever. They kind of hung around the art district, sort of sometimes asking for money or just hanging out with each other, but it appeared like they didn't ever go home. Were those the ravers and the club kids, or am I confusing 2 separate groups?
Could have been some of them.
No, we just got a lot of kids that live on the
Still
street
kind of
there.
an older. There's a younger crowd here in Portland, but like the parties that we throw, we kind of generate more of an older crowd still.
Gotcha.
Middle age to the older folks
Yeah.
like me.
Okay. I was thinking they were like candy kids or maybe, kids that kind of just follow the scene, looking for the next high kind of thing. I've never seen a population so large of kids and teenagers that were all just kind of on their own. They reminded me of like, a band of cats that, you know, go through the neighborhood and kind of wreak havoc. So I was curious, you know, what they were about. I didn't want to alienate them and ask them questions. I was like, I wonder if this is the rave scene, and they just, you know, during the day kind of hang out downtown Portland or something.
It could be part of it. I mean, some of the kids like that used to hang out downtown Portland, you know, and
I mean,
mosey around different areas throughout the day and be in a warehouse or a club at night. So that's not uncommon here in this area.
Uh-oh, Jesse, unmute yourself.
I don't know how we're getting all this stuff, but do you all have bad internet in Portland or something? I don't get it because everybody's like getting kicked out.
Yeah.
And
I'm on the wire. I'm not on Wi-Fi. So
there you go.
That satellite internet can be sketchy at times. You know, sometimes we get caught up in that satellite. We think we're going to get a good deal on it, and it comes out to be kind of crappy. So at least we're all here and everyone's popping back in. So that's a good thing. Let's talk about post-COVID. I know we're still in the middle of it, but people have found their way through the problems here in LA. A huge, I'm not gonna say their name, but a huge group who took over a smaller event that was called the Electric Daisy Carnival and became something else after that. Those people have set up an event. It's a drive-through 1 mile light and music show kind of thing. It's $100, and you can drive through and listen to, you know, EDM, D&B, and see all of the lights that would normally be flashing in what, you know, their event is in Vegas. Is there any, you know, mid-COVID things that you guys have noticed that are happening around Portland to kind of find a window for us to all party together?
there were some people doing things over the summertime,
discos.
but I haven't seen anything really going on. I'm not really looking right now because I'm just not even interested in trying to do anything until we get a green light to go. So
There's definitely been some.
And Mina knew what it was too. I heard her say it. It was something disco, sound disco. I think that's what she said.
A silent disco, I think.
silent disco, yeah.
Silent disco.
Yeah.
Okay, is that one of the ones like where you wear the headphones and everyone has headphones on?
Yeah.
Those have been
Okay.
going
Are you all in massive hamster balls and everybody's bumping into each other in these massive clear hamster balls? Because that's what I'm envisioning.
That's why I'm not going.
I don't do silent disco, so I like.
I need it to hit my chest, you know.
Can we talk about predictions? Go for it. I don't know who that was.
Well, that's one of the reasons that I wanted Jose Sosa on there, was because Jose definitely is more on the promoter side. Like, although he's a DJ and been DJing a while, but he throws a lot of parties. He does a lot of nights. He does a lot of club stuff. And you know, he did not this last year as much, but definitely 2019. He's always got like 4 or 5 parties happening on a weekly basis, almost. I feel so. That's why I was hoping you'd be able to expand about what you
So
think.
why is he being so quiet? Why are you being so quiet, man? Pump up yourself. This is the forum for it. Talk about what you're doing and what's going on, what you got planned, all of that. Sosa, unmute yourself.
Sosa.
Hey guys. Well, as far as you guys were talking about what was happening, or nothing's really happening. I think everybody's doing more of the live streams and the Twitches and all that as an outlet, because like playing, a few times a night or more was like, it's kind of an addiction. And then when it stops, it's like, it's been kind of rough, So like somebody mentioned the silent discos. Those were, there was a few out there because they were done in outdoor spaces and everybody's spread out and all that, to try to be as safe as possible. For the future, I think people are going to actually appreciate the shows and the events and the time and the money and everything that we put out there. So I hope I don't get no more complaints for a $5 cover, that people don't want to pay for. and for the most part, I think most people.
That's sad if people are complaining about $5.
Oh, it happened many times.
Well,
That's
no,
crazy.
and I hope, and I think things are going to change, and people are going to appreciate that. I think people are going to be ready for it. So looking forward to that. I think more people are going to
Yes.
be more united.
You'll be ready for $5.
Right?
start planning now.
That's funny.
It happens so many times.
Fuck
So
yeah.
I remember when we started doing our Chosen Few festival, it grew, from humble beginnings, and it was free for probably the first, I don't know, 15 years maybe, or maybe more, and then we had to start charging, because it got bigger and bigger, and we had to get a bigger stage and bigger sound, and then we had to have vendors and all kinds of stuff. And people, the first year, I think we charged $5, and we got so many complaints. I'm thinking, like, you have 12 hours of nonstop top DJs in the world playing for you, and you can't pay $5. Now, you'll go down to the grocery store or the liquor store and get you a $5 bottle of MD 2020 or a beer or something,
Or
but you can't pay it for all this talent. I was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe it. It was just amazing to me. And then we had people that would come in and like, listen, I got $100. I'll sponsor 20 people. So it just became this thing, but it just dumbfounded me. It's $5, people. What's the problem?
I threw the first $20 party in Seattle like in 1993, and fast forward to 2019 or 2018 going into 2019, New Year's party was $20 and people were complaining about it, and I had like 5 headliners and 2 rooms, and it was just like, are you kidding me? Like 1993 to
I'm thinking, like, what
to
are you supposed to?
2019.
Are you supposed to get in free? Is that what it is? Just everybody's supposed to get in free? And it's like, well, how do you throw these parties and pay
people
all these people coming in if everyone's supposed to get in free? Then then they want to be on the guest list, or I'm with the DJ, or all kinds of stuff. And I'm thinking, like, what? How do you go to the movies, you go out to dinner, you do all of these things, but you can't pay to go to something that's probably the most near and dear to your heart, which is the party, the camaraderie, the music, and everything. And it's just amazing to me.
There's a lot of sense of self-entitlement in this scene across the board, no matter where you're from. People always think they're deserving to get in because they know somebody. I know this guy, I know that guy, went to school with this dude, or went to school with her, or whatever, and that equates to free entry. This shit costs money. You do the Chosen Few.
Well,
that's big.
Exactly.
That's a big,
I'm like, do they think that this stuff just happens and everybody just miraculously appears and sound and
the guy with
everything?
the 50,000 watt sound system that shows up and unloads it out of his truck. He just happened to show up.
Right. Exactly.
The sound system, so it's like people don't really think about the details that go into a party and just the sheer cost of having the basics there, let alone if you're trying to be another level and do all the kitschy stuff, then that's a whole nother expense too. So it baffles me when people can't pay $5, $10, even $20, because there's parties they take a plane to Berlin and spend $60 to get in a damn nightclub over there, so
no problem.
Yeah.
Or you'll see it all the time. They'll want free into the party. They get in the party, then they go straight to the bar. They have money. They'll
spend $100 at the bar. You can't pay $5 to get in, but you'll spend $100 at the bar.
Well, if they're going to spend money at the bar, I don't mind them getting in for free, because that's where my money is going to come from anyways, is the bar, in terms of the events that I threw. So when it comes to hip hop, they spend their money on the liquor. So it's okay to have a 200, 300 plus guest list as long as everyone's drinking. Now, if it's a dry crowd and they all want to get in free and they're not going to drink, now I can see why that would be a problem. It sounds like maybe we're missing some FOMO, some fear of missing out. Maybe that event with only 60 spaces for 60 booties to fit is probably perfect for Portland, because there's a lot of fear of missing out when only 60 people are spending $50 each to get in. I mean, that's a great night.
Now, do we know these people?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's Minaj.
You know Minaj. He was
Yeah.
right front and center when I was playing. This club only held what,
Oh.
maybe 70 people, 80
Yeah,
people.
it was about
I was
Where's
there at
Minaj?
your when you DJ'd.
Probably
you were?
There's Brad Bockel.
yeah, that's Brad with the Acid House veteran shirt on. He's
Mhm.
old school.
Yeah. You know what, man?
Yeah.
Wow.
I feel like Portland always
Yeah,
has
this was an
successful
interesting
venues
night.
that were really tiny.
For the
Always.
most part.
It's
you know.
always
That
been
last
smaller
picture is
venues,
my
go the fuck
ex-wife.
off, like the Groove Suite and the 12
Wait a minute. Oh, whoa, whoa, hold on, hold on. Scotty just said one of these pictures was his
I mean,
ex-wife.
they
Wait a
don't even
minute.
fit 100
Which one is your
Oh.
ex-wife?
Go the fuck off.
Which one is your ex-wife?
Yeah, she's got the hat on.
Oh,
She's
That's
got
your
the-
ex-wife?
I know those people.
Yeah,
Memories.
She's probably listening right now.
Yeah, I
She
miss
what?
that spot.
She
I miss that
listening?
spot a lot.
Hi.
Probably
You're
some
on
of my
candid
favorite songs right there,
camera.
for sure.
Shout out to Scotty's ex. We love the hat.
Scotty's ex, right? There she is.
Do you guys know who C Orlando is? CEE Orlando?
Nope.
You say no.
Okay, one of the chatters, Boogie B, who also wanted to give a shout out to Tom, so he knows Tom, said that him or them and C Orlando have plans when things cool down again in Portland. So I'm curious what those plans are. I asked for some elaboration on it. What
C-
are your guys? Do you know who it is?
Must be talking about C Blanco. Not
Oh,
C.
okay.
I know who he is. Yeah, it's C White from
Yeah,
Chicago.
Boogie B, man.
Moved out here a few years ago.
Nice. What do
So
you guys
I don't know what
foresee?
I don't know what he's talking about. He must know something I don't know yet. So hey, call me.
Yeah, they
Nice.
love your voice.
What does the future hold, folks, for Portland? Can we strategize and maybe come up with a vision of what we see for Portland post COVID?
Yeah, I think what Sosa said is true. It's even the same with me. I mean, you've been in the scene so long. Half the time I'm like, oh, I don't want to go down or that type of thing. And now I got a whole different attitude. If there's someone that's decent and it's a good event, I'm gonna go support it. And I think there'll be more people that are the same and will appreciate what they get. It is fun. You can listen online, that kind of stuff. But it's as Jesse said, you're at a party. It's a community event, and you're meeting people and sharing your vibes together, and it'll be. I think that will be more.
Mm-hmm. All right. This has been amazing. We're coming towards the end of the party. This is how we do parties in 2021.
Yeah, the new norm.
We get to hang out with each other virtually. But the cool thing about this, though, if there's someone you don't like in the room, you can just kick them out, which you can't do at a real party. Or actually, you can, but that takes some bouncing. But I'd like to say that
Before we go,
Scotty-
Jesse,
Scotty Soul here is actually featured in the book In Their Own Words, which is what this whole thing is about and why I put it together. It's all about the stories of the people who lived it, loved it, and discovered house music along the way, as well as electronic music and even going back to disco and wherever we go from the future. But that's what this is all about. And I'd like to say to everyone in the room that Volume 2 is coming up. So you have the opportunity to write your story and share it in Volume 2. And if you have any questions, you can ask me or you can ask Scotty. Scotty wrote a great story as well. His spans Hawaii and Portland, which is amazing. But please, please, please write your story. And everyone else, if you haven't gotten the book, please go out and get it. It's a great read. It's actually way more pages than I ever imagined it would be, but it's full of amazing stories, and that was the whole objective of it.
Once you started, there is no turning back, huh?
Yeah. Well, I actually have 83 stories in the book, but I had 230 something submitted. So, and I thought this would be an easy journey, which is why I even tackled it in the first place. I went in thinking that I'm going to write a book, and it's going to be a lot easier than being able to, write like my first book, House Music: The Real Story. It took me a while because I'm not a writer. I can write, but I don't consider myself a writer. And I figured the second time around it'd be easy if I just had everybody else share their story and I could just throw in the book and go on and release it. Well, this one probably took me 3 times as long and about 5 times more work because I have to edit people's stories.
Yeah.
I have to actually make them make sense. I have to put them in some sort of order and timeline of an evolution and so on and so forth. And then I took it upon myself to define where disco came from because in every book I've ever read, no one's ever said that. Where did it even come from? So I sought that out. That took me a little while. Anyway, make a long story short,
That's
the
a whole
83
other
stories,
documentary.
right? Exactly. 83 stories they're all amazing. Once I finally got editor out of my mind and writer and actually went back and read the book, it was amazing. I mean, some of the stories brought me to tears. So I definitely love to hear you guys' stories. And for the end of the show, what I would like to do is have everyone say what you're doing now, what you would like to do, collaborations, anything you'd like to plug, go for it. DJ Sosa, you're up first.
Oh, thank you guys. Just kind of sitting chill right now, kind of waiting for everything to kind of clear up. Just gonna start, looking for new venues. Everything's kind of changed in our town because of everything's going, that's happening. So definitely want to do more of an exclusive venue and do more, more of a house music versus the top 40 EDM stuff, that I used to play at, more and more in the club scene. So for me, it's just looking for something smaller to concentrate, do maybe a monthly or something and bring in more people to be involved with that, from Chicago, from San Francisco, from, Mexico, whatever, try to get more of that scene out here.
Yeah. Well, last year in March, for probably the last 15 years, I've been doing what I call my birthday tour, right? My birthday's in March. So I was just beginning my birthday tour when this whole pandemic quarantine hit. So I'm thinking whenever I can get my birthday back, and I got fingers crossed that March will be it, but we know it's probably not going to happen. But if it does happen in March, I definitely want to come to Portland. So hit me up and let's book this tour. We need to get back to music. I'm sorry, man. This dancing to a TV and typing, what you're feeling and how. No,
not the same.
I'm not feeling it. Anyway, Dave Bate, you're up next.
So I'm probably the business I've been ever because we're throwing basically a festival every weekend, every Friday night and Saturday night. We're having, a wide variety of DJs. So that's been keeping me busy. I haven't been able to make music, but I get a DJ, get to listen to some of the best DJs and form wider relationships. So when we are able to go out, we'll start back up with Tom doing what we've been doing, bringing good music that inspires all of us, keep going. And, music goes into your soul. And that's pretty much what we'll be doing. So we keep on technoclub.net going throughout, even after that, maybe start broadcasting different parties. So sometimes in Portland, we don't, have access to some of the, different events that are out there. So this will, open that kind of stuff up for everybody. Enjoying the online thing and definitely can't wait to actually feel the bass at an actual event again.
All righty. Let's go to Tom.
Yeah, well, a little bit kind of Dave said, once this all ends, we'll be kind of getting back to what we used to be doing. Just doing more of the underground events, smaller events, with some top talent. I'm looking forward to being able to get this other project that I've got going on. I'm working a project with Ron Trent on the stories of Robert Williams and the Music Box. Hopefully we'll be seeing some more movement on that. And
Oh, you're working with him on that. I've heard about that. He mentioned it.
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
it's working with him on that, and so open to see some more coming from that. We've got some amazing footage and whatnot that is being put together, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And obviously, you kind of know what's going on because you're probably talking to Terry or somebody. But yeah, that's it. You know, I mean, we're just going to continue doing what we've always done. Nothing's going to change there. Emphasis on Techno Club now. And honestly, I want to get back to making some more music, getting some more releases out, whatnot. We stacked up a bunch of stuff over a period of time. We just need to rifle through it and work out some things and get some collaborations on with some people that we've been talking about doing some things with and make some shit happen. So that's what's coming, you know, in time.
Beautiful. Scotty, what about you?
Sorry about that. I kept coming off and on. I had to kick the kids off all their 19 electronic devices. But yeah, I mean, my goal for this year literally is 24 tracks for this year. I've got, I think, about 6 done already. And one of them, which is probably my biggest release, which is thanks to Jesse Saunders, I was able to do a remix with a guy called Sensei, who's an amazing piano player, to do the 35th anniversary of the remix of It's Okay by Jesse Saunders. That's going to be out on Broken, hopefully in March for his birthday months and birthday party. And maybe another track on Broken that we were looking at. And then a lot of different
Hopefully a
stuff coming out.
birthday tour.
This next month on Soul Room, some stuff from the UK. These guys, Deep Fix, which are Cole Lawton and a bunch of good friends of mine, stuff from the UK. We're doing a lot of stuff from those guys as well. So just a ton of music. I hope we get to start playing again at some point. I miss it. I look forward to it. But yeah, I'm just going to do mostly just producing from the bedroom.
All right. And Miss Mina. There? Try
My
now.
mic's muted.
There you go. Unmute yourself.
We can hit a click. There you go.
There you go. Go ahead.
There we go. Sorry, somebody keeps muting me. I've been relearning musical instruments. I've been teaching myself ukulele.
And at least she didn't leave this time when she tried to talk.
Just my internet connection almost.
We still have a picture of her, at least. Well, maybe she'll make it back. If she does, she'll clean it up. Otherwise, we need to get out of here. This has been a great hour of discovering the Portland scene, and I'd like to thank you all for participating. Once again, when we get together like this, it's amazing, so we need to keep this going. Because I love the fact that I can come into your home without actually having to ring your doorbell. So once again, thank you all for participating.
Thank you for having
Remember
us.
to write your story. Let's get that in the book, and let's keep these types of things going with each other. Dialogue is important, and history is important. So go out and get your copy of In Their Own Words, and look forward to Volume 2 with
job,
some of these
Jesse, as
wonderful,
always.
great people as well. All right. Thank you,
Have a
guys.
great night, everybody. Thanks for
Peace.
coming.
Thank you.
Nice job.
See you in Portland.
Bye.